I have flown over many wars. I have seen villages burn. I have seen men kill each other for pieces of land they would one day be buried in. But nothing hurts like what I saw when I flew over Uli airstrip in 1969, deep inside Biafra. The night sky above that strip of road was silent, almost holding its breath. The moon hid behind clouds. The air smelled of dust, kerosene, and the faint rot of hunger. Not the smell of food. No, it was the smell of bodies too thin to even sweat. Below me was Uli, once just a village road. Now, it was Biafra's last lifeline. Tiny lights blinked in the dark. Cargo planes flew low, afraid of being seen. They carried milk powder, dried fish, sardines, medicines. Sometimes they carried coffins. And the strange part, the coffins were not for soldiers. Soldiers died quickly. The coffins were for the children. I saw mothers on the bare ground, cradling shapes in their laps. Some shapes cried, some shapes did not. Aid workers went from one mother to the next, checking for breath, then gently pulling lifeless bodies away. Lions kill quickly. Hunger does not. The war had begun with bullets, but the deadliest weapon was not the gun. It was the blockade. Nigeria had sealed off Biafra like a jar full of trapped insects. Inside, food vanished. Markets grew silent. Fields were left bare. Uli became a miracle and a gamble. The Nigerian Air Force bombed it by day, so Biafra used it only at night. Pilots flew in without lights, skimming the treetops. They called it the Christ Airline because even the pilots prayed when they landed. By the end of 1969, federal troops were closing in. Soon, Uli would be gone, the last artery cut. From above, I saw the picture whole, the glowing runway, skeletal villages, Nigerian soldiers in olive green eating their rations, while Biafran children lay still in the dust. Dreams are not enough when the stomach is empty. This, more than bullets, was the face of war. This was the sky that tasted hunger. Broken stitches, Nigeria before the war. From high above, Nigeria looked whole. A giant land with 3 great regions stitched together like a quilt. The north, wide, dry, ruled mostly by Hausa Fulani leaders, rich in groundnuts and tradition. The west, busy, restless, home of the Yoruba, with cocoa farms, bustling markets, and cities like Lagos and Ibadan. The east, green, buzzing with trade, home of the Igbo, full of oil reserves, palm oil, and restless ambition. On paper, Nigeria was a dream, the largest country in Africa by population, a land blessed with oil, farms, and culture. But stitches can break, and in 1966, they did. The first coup, January 1966. Young officers, mostly Igbo, carried out Nigeria's first coup. They stormed into power, killing many northern and western political leaders, including Prime Minister Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, and powerful northern figures like Ahmadu Bello, the Sardauna of Sokoto. When the dust settled, an Igbo general, Major General Johnson Aguiyi Ironsi, took charge as head of state. The North watched with suspicion. To them, this coup looked like an Igbo plan to take Nigeria. 6 months later, in July 1966, the North struck back. Northern officers led another coup. They killed General Ironsi in Ibadan, along with his host, Colonel Adekunle Fajuyi, the governor of Western Nigeria, who refused to hand him over. This coup brought a young officer to power, Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Gowon, only 31 years old. He became head of state. The earth shook with revenge. What followed was even worse. Across the northern cities, Igbo civilians were hunted in the streets. Men, women, and children were dragged from markets, homes, and trains. Many were killed with machetes and clubs. Trains that once carried yams now carried bodies. Stations overflowed with wounded refugees. Over 1 million Igbos fled east, carrying nothing but their names and whatever they could hold. From the sky, I saw wagons piled with the dead, families running east, barefoot, hungry, broken. The east was full again, its fields, its towns, its sorrow. And in that moment, a man named Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, the military governor of the eastern region, decided that Nigeria was already broken. On a Aburi Accord, we stand. January 1967, Ghana. The air in Aburi was heavy and warm. Strange for a place where peace was on the table. Under the shade of trees, General Yakubu Gowon met with Ojukwu. There were no boots, no guns. Only men in suits drinking tea, pretending to trust. For hours they spoke. The agreement seemed clear. No force, power would be shared among the regions. The army would stay under local control unless every region agreed to act together. It sounded like peace. Birds sang as if it were over. But peace on paper is not peace on the ground. When Gowon returned to Lagos, his advisors, including Chief Obafemi Awolowo, recently freed from prison and now Federal Commissioner of Finance, warned him. Awolowo was brilliant, disciplined, and feared. He told Gowon decentralization would weaken the country and Nigeria could collapse. So Gowon's team rewrote the agreement into law, Decree number 8. On the surface, it looked like Aburi, but deep inside were claws. Lagos still held emergency powers that could crush a region. Ojukwu read it once, twice, then slammed it down. This is not the deal. On radio, his voice rang cold across the east. On Aburi Accord, we stand. From above, I saw Nigeria split, not by geography, but by trust. Gowon saw one Nigeria held strong by the center. Ojukwu saw a trap, and neither would bend. The silence after Aburi was dangerous. It was the silence before a snake strikes. By May 1967, Gowon made his move. He split Nigeria into 12 states, slicing away the oil-rich rivers and cross-river areas from Igbo control. 3 days later, Ojukwu declared the Republic of Biafra. The road back to peace was gone. The only road left was war. And from the sky, I knew the first shots would echo louder than the promises whispered under those Ghanaian trees. The first shots, Enugu falls. The morning of the 6th of July, 1967 was not quiet for long. Federal troops moved from the north like a rising tide. Their target was clear, Enugu, the capital of the new Republic of Biafra. From above, I saw dust clouds rising from convoys of trucks and tanks. Soldiers in olive green uniforms marched in rhythm, chanting songs. Some carried AK-47s, others old Lee Enfield rifles from colonial days. Their boots struck the earth like drums of war. Inside Enugu, the Biafrans prepared. Their uniforms were a faded mix of brown and green. Some wore sandals instead of boots. The rifles were few, the ammunition even fewer. Every shot had to count. The generals take their positions. On the Nigerian side, General Yakubu Gowon in Lagos gave the orders. But in the field, it was men like Colonel Mohammed Shua, commander of the 1st Infantry Division, who led the push from the north. Shua was disciplined, respected, and ruthless. His battalions rolled through the roads of Nsukka, breaking the first line of Biafran defense. On the Biafran side, Major General Alexander Madiebo, head of the Biafran army, rallied his scattered troops. Madiebo was young, fiery, and determined. Beside him were field commanders like Colonel Joseph Hannibal Ashudia, nicknamed Air Raid, a fearless fighter who never backed down, and Colonel Ogbo Oji, defending the Nsukka axis. Enugu was not just a city, it was the symbol of Biafra. Ojuku's government sat there. Its radio stations broadcast defiance to the world. Losing Enugu would send a chilling message. Biafra was crumbling. At first, the Biafrans fought with ambush tactics. Young recruits, some barely 18, hid in the bush and fired on convoys. They used old mines and crude bombs, slowing the Nigerian advance. One Nigerian convoy burned on the roadside, thick smoke curling into the sky. From above, I saw the Biafrans cheer, but the joy was short-lived. Nigeria's numbers were overwhelming. By October 1967, the federal troops reached Enugu's edge. Mortar shells thundered into the city, shaking buildings until walls crumbled and fires spread. Black smoke rose into the sky, blotting out the sun. Streets filled with fleeing civilians, mothers carrying bundles on their heads, children strapped to their backs, old men limping, families clutching whatever they could carry. Biafran defenders dug in. Young recruits in torn khaki uniforms fired from shattered windows and doorways, their rifles scarce and ammunition precious. Each shot was desperate. Nigerian troops pressed forward in disciplined columns, olive green uniforms, moving behind tanks and machine guns that rattled, endlessly tearing through the city. The fighting was savage, street by street. Grenades exploded in alleys, smoke and dust made every figure a shadow. Gunfire flashing in the haze. Civilians ran between bursts of fire, their cries mixing with the roar of battle. By dusk, Enugu glowed red against the night, the skyline burning. Ojukwu had already chosen. He would not be captured. He and his government evacuated south to Umuahia, a smaller town, but safer. But the war was far from over. Enugu may have collapsed, but the battles that followed would roar with fire. From daring gambles in the Midwest to ambushes that shook Nigeria's army, the struggle of Biafra was only beginning. Watch out for Volume 2, Flames in the Dust, where survival, betrayal, famine, and foreign powers collide in the final chapters of a war that scared Nigeria.